What's up, y'all? Everyone is here back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. We've got so much going on in Raid Shadow Legends right now. It's like making my head spin, but I want to go over the brand new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collaboration they've got going on. I'm going to go through every single new champion they're adding with all the heroes from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then go over any additional items that I haven't even caught up on, hopefully, in this video. So stay tuned, stick around, let's get into it. All right, so here we are. We've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collaboration with Raid Shadow Legends. Let's do this. Let's get right into this. Disclaimer, okay, they've got an embargo. We can't share it. Of course, they've already released some information. At least there was a content creator who leaked a lot of information. Hopefully they're punished because, you know, people shouldn't be leaking stuff like this earlier than it should be sent out to you guys in the public, right? Or released. So it says August 21st, 2025, 1:30 UTC is when I can share it with you. So it's past that time frame. There's already people sharing it, but hopefully there's good info on this. I think I didn't send or make a video on the previous embargoed one that they had for this. They had blocked off some images, and I was just kind of waiting until they just showcased it all because I want to see everything at once. So let's see what we've got going on here. The start date of and duration of this collaboration is from the 21st, which is today at the time of this recording, all the way through November 13th. So you have a lot of time. Of course, I put the hashtags in there, so that's huge. It's Cowabunga. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have landed in Teleria after a fight in Dimension X when Ari, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo, April O'Neil, and the fearsome Shredder were catapulted through the portal to various locations across Teleria. Wasn't there another person too? The guy with the hockey pucks or the hockey sticks? What isn't that guy a part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well? I forget his name, but Mikey? No? Who's that guy? I forget off the top of my head. Oh, it says Donnie is seeking answers. I think it's Donnie. No, that's Donatello. Where is he? Where's the guy with the hockey stick? Anyways, rumors of turtle-like creatures causing mayhem begin to ripple across Teleria. It's a race against time. Okay, let's see what's going on here. All right, so what do we have here? So, really cool pictures. Raphael, Donatello, all the great characters from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all four of them, of course. Shredder. Where's the rat, by the way? Where's Master Splinter? Where's he at? Had a great opportunity to add Master Splinter as well. What the heck? Not just Shredder that's coming in here. So we got the key art, got campaign logo, we got all kinds of stuff. Let's scroll right through. In-game updates, custom background. Okay, so they get their own custom background, which is really cool. They got to be in the sewers, of course. All right, so there's gonna be 6 legendary heroes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's all of them. If we scroll through, you've got April, Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, Raphael, and Shredder. So April's a magic legendary, Michael is a spirit legendary, Donatello's a magic legendary, Leonardo's a void legendary, Raphael's a force legendary, and Shredder is a void legendary. During the Raid Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle integration, all new and existing players will have a chance to obtain Michelangelo via a 14-day loyalty program, aka the Michelangelo Chase. So they are in game right now. Let's take a quick peek at Michelangelo. So he's going to be part of Banalords. It looks like they separated which factions they're in, which is kind of interesting. I guess I didn't really fully understand that, but I figured they would have all been in the same faction, but I guess they do want to make some changes there. So as you can see in game, 15,000 HP, a little bit more than that, 1,500 attack, 1,000 defense is decent. Pretty slow at 99 speed, but it's okay, and he's free. It's attack-based champion here from Banalords. We do need strong Banalord champions, especially for the hard faction crypts, so he's going to hopefully be the guy to bring in. Really cool animation, by the way. Dang. Like, the graphics on this dude is absurd. Insane graphics. Holy crap. Okay. Swinging the nunchucks like crazy. What else does he do? Does he do more? Does he take out like pizza? Oh, he does. He smells the pizza. Oh, there's a rat. Oh, he dropped his pizza and the rat took his pizza. Oh, that's cool. You can see him running off in the distance. All right, so that's really, really cool. Okay, so let's go through the skills here. On the A1, attacks one enemy 2 times. If either hit is critical, places a 50% increased attack buff on himself for 2 turns. And it's level up to 5 for additional 20% damage boost on the A1. It's decent because you want to make sure you're hitting twice. Pretty much all damage dealers now, if the A1 only hits once, it's usually not super great because you got the likes of UDK, Rodos, all these champions just soaking up that first hit with no problem. And that's a problem if you can't kill the enemy. A2 attacks one enemy before attacking. 75% chance of placing decreased defense on the target for 2 turns. 75% chance of placing a stun debuff for 2 turns. Will ignore 25% of the target's resistance if the attack is critical. Then applies a debuff spread effect, taking all debuffs from the target and placing them on all enemies, and ignores 25% of each target's resistance if the initial attack is critical. So the thing with this guy so far, he's only a single target damage dealer so far. That's a good skill though, especially for PvE. You can spread it, all the debuffs, like block buffs, from one of the Hydra heads to all the heads, but he spreads not just one buff, he spreads all the debuffs on the enemy. So that's really strong. In PvP, is that going to work a lot? Here and there it will, but in high-end PvP, he's not going to be utilized as much based on the first 2 portions of his kit. I mean, I assume they're all going to synergize very well with each other as heroes, but I don't know if he is going to work great in PvP on his own based on reading this so far. Now, on his A, that is a 3-turn cooldown if you book him out, by the way. And books are hard to come by, so there's probably other champions that you might have that you want to book first. Shell Cyclone attacks all enemies. This is A3. 75% chance of placing a decreased attack and a leech for 2 turns. Ignores 25% of each target's resistance if the attack is critical. So he's definitely going to be a solid PvE Hydra champion. He could also be solid in Chimera as well, placing decreased attack, placing leech. That's good. Placing decreased defense as well. Increased attack on himself. So that's not bad. That's actually decent. He also places a taunt on himself for 2 turns, which is okay. That's on a 4-turn cooldown though on attacks all enemies. That's a pretty long cooldown. He doesn't get an extra turn. So I would hope that hits very hard, but that's a very long time for a cooldown. His passive has a 15% chance to evade an enemy skill and all of its accompanying effects, which means no damage taken, no debuffs, and any accompanying effects, which would mean not increasing his skill cooldowns. If this champion is under a taunt buff, the chance to evade increases to 30%. Okay, now we're talking. He has the capability of keeping himself alive without having to bring in another support champion potentially to try to keep him alive. So that's good for PvP. But is it going to work well, and are his multipliers really good? I don't know. Whenever Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, or Raphael attacks, this champion joins the attack. That's strong. That's actually really strong for a group team up. Active effect places a shield buff on this champion equal to 300% of this champion's attack for 1 turn whenever they receive a hit. That's strong. So he's good at keeping himself alive. So maybe he will be good in PvP. There's a possibility you could bring him into PvP for survivability wise. The mechanic is there, but is he going to hit hard? That's the problem. Is he going to hit hard? Do you really care about building? If you're going to put him in PvP, do you really want to build him with a ton of accuracy and risk a chance of getting sheeped? That's another issue. I mean, if he hits really hard with his abilities, he might be valid in PvP, just not going to be top tier unless he hits like a truck. Okay, moving on. We've got Donatello, Magic Support Legendary. Okay, so he's a full support, and Donatello kind of is the brains of the operation for their group. So I can see him being the supporting hero. Let's see. Attacks one enemy, heals all allies by 5% of his max HP. So he's an HP based champion. Let's take a quick look though. So in game, he is Lizardmen faction. So if we take a look at Lizardmen, we see Donatello here looking super cool with the staff. And yes, he is an HP based champion. Okay, really, really cool. So as you can see, I'm going to read it from here since it's already in game. Heals all the allies. Instantly activates a random continuous heal on all allies. Shell Shocker attacks all enemies. Decreases the cooldowns of all allies' skills except this champion by 2 turns. That's very strong. Decrease the cooldown of all allies' skills except this champion by 2 turns. The skill's cooldown cannot be decreased by other cooldown decreasing effects, which makes sense because it would be kind of broken, but they do that with void legendaries like Yumiko. Places a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. They could be really strong so far together in PvE, definitely in Hydra. I feel like they could wreck the Hydra potentially based on their kits so far. But again, it all comes down to damage as well. So will they be stronger than the Throat Ripper and Crocad or Impact Master? Who knows? Removes all debuffs from all allies. Places a 15% continuous heal and a strengthen on all allies. Also fills the turn meter of all allies on a 3-turn cooldown. This one's on a 4-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies. So the 4-turn cooldown of attacking all enemies seems like a long cooldown. The passive, whenever any of his brothers attacks, he joins the attack. So I feel like every single turtle is probably going to have the same passive effect where they always join the... Oh, it's on a 4-turn cooldown. Oh, dang. That's a long cooldown to join an attack. So every 4 turns, he'll join the attack. And the active effect, whenever an ally is about to receive a fatal hit, this champion prevents that ally's death and keeps them alive with 1 HP. It doesn't need to be just his brothers. It could be any ally. Then equalizes that ally's HP. The HP level of that ally will be brought up to the average HP level of the team. If there are multiple champions on the team with a skill, only one will activate. So not bad. HP in all battles by 30%. Honestly, pretty strong for a support, especially for Lizardmen. Like the strength and continuous heals and then constantly activates 1 random continuous heal on all allies is very strong for healing. This guy could end up being a great healer, especially for Hydra. And if he's on the team with you in Hydra and placing the strengthen and continuous heals and constantly healing the team, I don't think your team would even need a reviver potentially. You might not even need it. Unless you end up killing yourself to one of the heads that has like a reflect damage or something. But if you have anybody bringing in block buffs, then hopefully you wouldn't have that issue. This seems like he's going to be a really good support. So moving on to the next one, we've got Raphael, Leonardo, and then April. So let's go with Raphael first. He's from the Barbarians. This dude looks sick. Raphael was always my favorite character in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Also, my favorite color is red, so it just makes it even better. But he was always the super aggressive attacker on the team of his brothers. He was like the strongest one of them in terms of just sheer strength. And then I think that Leonardo was like the next strongest or possibly strongest. Him and Leonardo would always compete with each other head to head, but I always liked Raphael better. I might just have a bias towards him, but that's just me. So this guy, what do he got? Attacks one enemy 2 times, places a block revive debuff on the target if the target's killed. That's very strong already off the bat. Boom. That's my boy right there, Raphael. Each critical hit fills the champ's turn meter by 10%. Not bad. I hope he hits hard. I hope he hits as hard as, what's his name? That epic nuker. Seismic Slam, A2. Attacks all enemies. Will ignore shield and block damage. Very strong, especially against champions like Odin. If attacking under a Berserk. Okay, so only ignore shield and block damage under Berserk placed by himself. If the champ's not under Berserk debuff placed by himself, the damage inflicted against enemies under shield buffs is just increased by 50%. It's alright. It's not bad. Each critical hit fills this champion's turn meter by 10%. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, so that's good. We've got ourselves a 3-turn AoE instead of 4-turn. That's strong. Not today, knucklehead. Alright, so the A3 attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit will ignore 20% of the target's defense, places a perfect veil buff and an unkillable on himself if the target's killed. So this must be his hardest hitting ability, I would assume. And more than likely, you're going to kill somebody with this ability. Especially if they have a UDK, the additional 2 hits could still potentially kill somebody. As long as he has good multipliers. If he doesn't have good multipliers, then obviously, something else, they might be unusable. So If he doesn't have good multipliers, then obviously he's going to be unusable. If the target survives, places a berserk on himself for 2 turns instead, this debuff cannot be resisted or blocked. And then whenever his brothers attack, he joins the attack, and he has no cooldown. Wow, Raphael has no cooldown on this, on his attack. That's good. That's really good. And for those of you who don't know what a berserk debuff is, by the way, basically it just increases your attack dealt, but also increases the damage you receive. So let me just go scroll all the way down to berserk. Increase the damage inflicted and damage received by 50% when you have a berserk on yourself. But in some cases it can be clutch because you can wipe out their entire team. In other cases it's not, because then you just get killed by just getting tapped by a support champion. So that could be a problem as well. So it says places a berserk on this champion for 1 turn when any enemy or any champion dies. Not even enemies, anybody. Your own teammate could die, he gets a berserk. Has a 20% chance of granting an extra turn when attacking under berserk placed by this champion. Okay, so basically he's almost always placing it himself whenever someone dies, whenever he uses this ability. So more than likely, you're going to have a situation where you're going to get a berserk. He's going to need to be in Stone Skin. He's going to be the guy that comes into as a nuker on your PvP teams. I want this guy. I hope I get him. But I hope that they allow you to get the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles after the collaboration's over, after the event's over. And they don't just paywall these champions. Because that's the one thing I don't like about the game, is when they paywall it. And you can never get them ever again after the events end. The only one that has come back from an event like this, like a collaboration, was Ninja in the past. So I just don't like that about this. So hopefully you can constantly get Raphael and the other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles after this event ends. Increase attack in all battles by 30% is not bad. Let's go to Leonardo. He's a Shadowkin, which is interesting, right? So Leonardo's a Shadowkin, and let's see, what's her name? April is a Sacred Order. So we're going to go to Shadowkin first. Take a look at Leonardo, and we have Shredder right next to him. So Leonardo also looking super cool with the 2 katanas here. Very nice. So for him, attacks an enemy 2 times. When counterattacking, will repeat the attack against a random enemy. Will ignore 3% of the target's defense for each buff on this champion and stacks up to 15%. That's not bad. Places increased defense on all allies for 2 turns and an ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Also places an unkillable and counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns. That's strong. So for him, because he's placing so many buffs, you probably want to put him in a protection set 9-piece and go for as much damage as you can, if possible, because he clearly is going to have some damage. But, like they did with your boy Grakos, he might not have any multipliers, so there's a potential chance where this looks so good on paper that they end up being like, yeah, it looks great, but then he hits no damage at all, even with the ignore defense or the additional stacking of a defense. Yeah, it says ignore defense up to 15%. So he still might be trash, but who knows? His kit looks good, though, on paper. For the A3 attacks all enemies, the damage inflicted by the skill increases by 5% for each buff on all allies and enemies. This could nuke. Is this on a 3-turn cooldown? Yes, it is. Wow. Removes all buffs from all enemies. If this attack kills an enemy, this effect cannot be resisted. So he could potentially be used in PvP as well as PvE as well. That's big. I mean, in Hydra, he's going to be great. Will he kill a Hydra head? Possibly, if his multipliers are good. And he's their Unity champion, it seems. 1 turtle ally will ignore 15% of each target's defense per each Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, or Raphael on the team. Does not count this champion. That's great. So he's going to be a big nuker as well, potentially. 2 turtle allies increases the damage dealt by this skill in proportion to this champion's missing HP. And 3 turtle allies activates this skill whenever an ally's HP drops below 50%. Occurs once per skill. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. And then for his passive, places Stone Skin buff on this champion for 1 turn Each time he drops below 50%. That's disgusting. He's like a Naomi, except he places Stone Skin, which is even stronger than block damage. Holy crap. Whenever the Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael attacks, this champion will join the attack. No cooldown on the joining of attack. So him and Raphael are definitely the best of the brothers out of all four. We get Michelangelo for free, but the other 3, 4, 5 characters we don't get for free. We have to work for it, okay? You have to have a lot of saved resources. Whatever this fusion's going to be, or whatever the upcoming fusion is, I don't think it's going to be one of these Ninja Turtles or of this from this collaboration. I think it's just going to be a random champion. I recommend, if you really want to go for these champions in this collaboration, save your shards and potentially skip the next fusion, or do everything in your power to save as many shards as possible. So if you try your best to go for like a 15x progressive for this champion, or Shredder, or the other Ninja Turtles, then you can utilize your shards for that instead. Now, let's move on to April. She's the Sacred Order champion. But so far, their kits read fairly decent, like fairly well, right? Where's April at? Here she is. Magic champion. Again, they do a phenomenal job. They knock it out of the park with aesthetics. For first ability. Dang. That's a lot of debuffs. So, additional 15%, 25% chance of placing debuffs. Attacks one enemy, 50% chance of placing stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, or petrification on the target for 1 turn. Then places a perfect veil on herself for 2 turns, and she's based on attack. Then we've got Explosive Scoop. Attacks one enemy, 75% chance of stealing all buffs from the target. And that books out to 100% on a 3-turn cooldown. Also has a 75% chance of stealing 100% of the target's current turn meter, then has a 75% chance of placing Nullify and a seal on the target for 2 turns. Okay, what is Nullify? Nullify, this must be a new debuff. Champions under the Nullify debuff cannot have their skills activated, participate in ally attacks, be granted an extra turn or an instant turn, have their skills cooldowns decreased, have their shields value increased, have their destroyed HP restored, have their HP swapped by allies or by themselves, evade enemy effects or skills, have their turn meter equalized, or have their HP balanced. That's a very strong debuff, especially against the Mythicals and Nias. Super strong against Nias. Wow. Is Nias, now that I think about it, is Nias blue affinity or red affinity? She's blue, so they're neutral affinity. She's neutral against him. She could actually be really strong against him with Nullify and Seal. And with Seal, there's so many debuffs in game now and buffs that I forget what half of them do. So I have to read them sometimes. So let me go ahead and read that. Maybe you don't know what it does either. So let me get to that for you. So Seal, there's 2 different types, strong version and a weak version and a strong version. There are 2 versions, Seal and Master Seal. The Seal buff blocks effects from gear sets, masteries, except that stats boosts granted by artifacts and accessories, as well as masteries that only boost stats like Blade Disciple and Flawless Execution. So, okay, that makes sense. A Master Seal is an enhanced version of this buff, which additionally blocks the effects from blessings, except the stat boost. So, a Seal is really strong if you don't want to get sheeped at all. If you happen to land the Seal, of course. So, if you can land a Seal on someone and spread it to the rest of the team, then you will not be affected by the blessings from those champions, or like mainly it would be like sheep or other like really strong blessings in game. Obviously there's no issue with brimstone, but like ignore defense effect blessings, you know, as well as stacking, decreasing the target's defense blessings. This Seal could actually be strong against those blessings, but it's not like the strongest debuff in the game. It's decent. It's decent. Okay, so in terms of her A3, well, actually, I didn't read the passive effect of this one. Has a 25% chance of activating Explosive Scoop on an enemy when they gain an extra turn or an instant turn. Oh, nice. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. So it's only 25% chance, but it does get booked out to a 35, 40, 50% chance to land an explosive, scoop, nullify, or seal, or actually both at the same time. Yeah, that's pretty strong. Yeah, she's really strong for a legendary. Places increased accuracy on all allies, also decreases the determinative of all enemies, and then grants an extra turn. So that brings it from a 4-turn essentially to a 3-turn. Damn, dude. Ace Reporter. Passive. Whenever an enemy has their skill activated, teams up with allies to attack, gains an extra turn or an instant turn, has their skills cooldown decreased, gets their shields values increased, gets their destroyed HP restored, has their HP swapped by allies or themselves, evades an enemy effect or skill, has their turn meter equalized, or has their HP balance from a skill, decreases all enemies' turn meter by 10%. Occurs once per skill. Books down to a 2-turn. So once the effect goes off, though, you got 2 turns before it happens again. If there are multiple champions on the same team, only one will activate. Active skill. Whenever enemies remove, transfer, or decrease the duration of any debuff to 0, decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 25%. If there are multiple champions on a team with this skill, only one will activate. So she's very strong. She is very strong. 28% speed in arena as well. Damn. So with all their team ups, right? The ally attacks between the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well as her, as April, is so powerful. You're basically just wiping out one enemy. Yeah, their team up in arena actually might be amongst the best team ups in this entire game. If you can get all the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well as April. I mean, you can only have 4, right? But you probably want Raphael over Michelangelo, who's going to be free. And you'd want April with Leonardo and Raphael and Donatello. Sadly, Michelangelo, although he is a damage dealer, he's not nearly as strong as Raphael and Leonardo. So, yeah, I mean, super strong. Let me go on to Shredder here. And Shredder was Shadowkin. Let's see how good Shredder is going to be. So Shredder, let's see. When does Shredder come out? So April does bring out the new debuff Nullify, which it says right here. So super strong. And Shredder's going to be an event dungeon. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. So August 21st to the 6th. So I didn't even notice that he was in game. Let me see. Let me take a look at him in game. So he's part of the event dungeon. Oh, let me get rid of that. Dang. Okay, that's crazy. And Chronophase. Chronophase? Okay, this must be a new gear set as well, because they're not doing pinpoint. So maybe it's all in this embargoed content that I'm going to read soon. So Shredder's new boss, up to 30 stages. Of course, if you can farm stage 30, that's the best because you can get mythical gear. With Shredder and his skills, let's take a look at him in game because I like to see the entire champion here, what it looks like. Okay, so super cool looking. Attacks an enemy 3 times. The second and third hits of the skill will ignore 5 and then 10% of the target's defense respectively. The second and third hits of the skill will deal an additional 10 and then 20% more crit damage respectively. He's an HP nuker. Okay, HP nuker. They're hit or miss typically because a lot of times the HP nukers are not strong. So unless it's Taras or Nice. But I mean, Samson, I have Samson, but he's not like Taras or Nice. I'll tell you that much. Attacks all enemies 2 times. This guy might smack though. We'll see. Because if he's anything like Grakos, then get him out of here. Attacks all enemies 2 times. Each critical hit destroys the enemy's defense, stacks up to 30%. Damn. Each critical hit also increases the champion's max HP up to 30%. Each hit has a 75% chance of placing a leech for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. Okay, so he places leech. It's a 3-turn cooldown. 100% chance to place leech, which is good. Attacks all enemies before attacking, steals all buffs from a single target. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. Fills this champion's turn meter by 15% for each buff stolen. Damn, so basically it gives him an instant turn after he takes a turn. If you can steal like 4 buffs, you're almost getting an instant turn. 10 buffs is an instant turn because it's way over 100% turn meter. So you'd be full. Yeah, I mean, he looks really good on paper. Like I said, looks great. Most of these champions look amazing on paper. I just want to see what they can do in the actual fights, you know? Will ignore 15% of each enemy's defense as well as shield and block damage buffs. Very strong, especially against Odin. He can be very strong against Odin. If this champion is under a Veil or Perfect Veil, will ignore 30% of each enemy's defense instead. I feel like I'd want him to ignore block damage buffs. Oh, I see. So this is just in addition to. So he's still going to ignore the block damage buffs. So this is just in addition to. It's on a 4-turn cooldown. This must be his hardest hitting ability then. And then for his passive, decreases all incoming damage by 30%. And that's on a 1-turn cooldown. So if he gets attacked, there's a high chance that he is able to get a turn because he won't die. This damage is split equally amongst all allies except this champion. Okay, interesting. Increases the champion's damage dealt by 15% for each dead ally. So basically, he spreads all the damage. All your allies end up potentially dying. He gets a chance at whacking the entire team and killing everybody. So you put him in Stone Skin, fairly slow, not too slow, but fairly slow, and full damage. And then he could potentially just nuke an entire team. That's what I'm getting from this kit so far. Active effect. Whenever this champion loses 20% of their max HP in one attack, has a 100% chance to evade the next attack. It's on a 1-turn cooldown, so he has to take a turn. But this is extremely powerful. Evade is an extremely powerful mechanic. When this guaranteed evade effect activates, places a perfect veil on himself for 2 turns, and a 50% chance to place a true fear on all enemies for 1 turn. The true fear cannot be resisted. That's an extremely strong kit in my opinion. He's not like overpowered, like he's going to be the best in the game or anything like that, which is good because you don't want to make too many meta champions, but he could be in the meta or at least a pseudo meta champion here and increase HP in all battles by 33%. So not a bad champion. He does have 103 speed, 23,000 HP, 1100 on the defense. So he's not a bad champion at all. So that's all the champions that they're adding. And then let's take a look at the gear set. Chronophase, a 9-piece set. So this one gives HP resistance speed, start of the round with an immutable stack. What the heck does immutable stack do? 6 pieces, so more HP, more immutable stacks. So up to 3 immutable stacks with 9 pieces of Chronophage, more speed. So it's HP, speed, and immutable stack. So the immutable buff, what will this do? It will reduce the effectiveness of any attempt to increase the cooldowns. So the champion's cooldowns just won't be able to get increased. I don't know if that's the only thing that this gear set does. It's good on, I guess it's good on your support champions. No, it is strong. It's strong because if you put the immutable stat buff on your support champion like a Yumeko to reset, it's really, really better for the Krakens. I'll be honest. This set's going to be really strong for Krakens because most Krakens have Shuzen, they have Yumeko, they have Crixia, which are champions you'd want the immutable buff on, at least a 4-piece. Because with the introduction of Fabian is going to try to increase the cooldowns of their skills. And Fabian's so powerful that having this immutable buff is going to help a lot of Krakens. I'll tell you that much. So basically, if you're free to play, you're not farming as much gear as the Krakens and the spenders. Let me just tell you that much. Champion can receive multiple stacks of immutable buff. Like myself, it'll take me a while just to even get 4 solid pieces with triple to quad speed on them is what I'm talking about. Each immutable stack will reduce the effectiveness of an attempt to increase a cooldown. For instance, if a skill specifies that it increases a skill's cooldown by 3 turns, a single immutable stack will be reduced to 2 turns. 2 stacks will reduce it to 1 turn, and 3 stacks will block the cooldown increasing effect entirely. So it literally is going up against Fabian. But if you have a champion like, because Fabian does a 3-turn increase cooldown, but if you go to like her, she also does 3-turn. But isn't there a champion that just increases their cooldown fully, like Warlord or something? So does that mean Warlord comes back in being one of the strongest increase cooldown champion in the game? Attacks all enemies, 30% chance to do 75% or 70% plus equals to 100% chance to put each target's skills on cooldown. So what if, so would this be considered 1-time cooldown instead of 3-turn cooldown? I don't know. So that's where I'm a little confused. I'd have to ask that question. So I'd have to go back and talk to the community managers and see, in terms of this specifically having 3 stacks, does that work the same way as it would on like a Warlord? And will they have to change the way that you read that skill on Warlord to increase the cooldown by 1 turn? Because if it's just increases the cooldowns, does that ignore the stacks entirely? Or does it just remove 1 stack? And does that make Warlord the weakest increased cooldown compared to Fabian and Yumiko, which increased by 3 turns each? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on that. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. The immutable buff cannot be spread to any allies, can't have its duration increased or decreased. If an attempt to increase a skill's cooldown is made against a champion who is immune to cooldown increasing effects and has immutable stacks, those immutable stacks will not be removed. However, if an attempt to increase a skill's cooldown is made and cannot be resisted, immutable stacks will be removed, okay? If a champion is under an immutable buff and another immutable buff with less stacks than the champion currently is placed on them, the number of immutable stacks on the champion remains unchanged. And if a champion steals an immutable buff from an enemy, they will also steal as many immutable stacks as the initial champion had when the buff was stolen. So that is strong. That is strong. Now we're moving on to relics. 8 new relics. Let me know what you think about the new Chronophase artifacts and accessories set. I mean, it's going to be on specific champions that reset your champion so you can get turns. You're going to want to put it on your tanks, your support revivers, right? That way you don't even need to build resistance on them. You can just simply go for a full revive. You won't get locked out, right? So you don't have to worry about resistance at all. So that's the cool part about it. But I think the issue is you need a 9-piece, and that's going to take a while for anybody to even get a 9-piece. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. It's hard to get. Definitely a decent set. They're thinking about ways to counter increased cooldown champions, but it's just kind of frustrating. All right, so 8 new event relics. We've got 2 mythical relics, Stars of Jinnang, the Zibia's Servitude, 2 legendary relics, Last Laugh Amulet, Mask of Disquiet, 2 epics and 2 rares. So the epics, Exucer's Totem, Saint Xavier's Tribute, and then Thunderous Circlet and Jaws of Hatred. So we're going to go with the rares first. We've got Thunderous Circlet. It's a helmet type relic. Wearer has 20% chance of placing a 15% continuous heal buff on themselves for 1 turn after losing 25% or more of their max HP. That's actually very strong. I do like that. It's guaranteed healing and great for solo tanks, okay? Solo content for PvE is what I mean. So if you're trying to solo certain areas of the game and you just can't do it, slap on Thunderous Circlet, adds HP, adds defense, adds resistance to them. Of course, the HP is what you're going to want the most. And that's on a low level. 6,100 on the HP is a lot of HP. So that's very good for a rare, in my opinion, specifically for PvE. Obviously, like, high spenders are not going to really care too much about it, but they are going to say the same thing as me, where this is a very strong early, mid game, late game, even end game for Cursed City. If you're just trying to keep your allies alive, you slap this on, and they just keep on healing up without having to have a reviver. If for some reason you don't have a reviver that's doing enough to keep your team alive, or a support champion that's doing enough to keep your team alive. So super, super powerful. The Jaws of Hatred. When attacked, Wearers have a 10% chance of increasing their defense by 10% until the end of their next turn. Wow. Whoa. What the heck? What? So what is their defense going to be? So if you just have a super slow Harima, is this going to be a broken set? What? 10% chance of increasing their defense by 10% until the end of their next turn. Okay, so it's only a 10% chance to increase it, but still. What if your champion's so slow, the other team's going so fast, they hit you so many times whenever they're attacked, no cooldown by the way, and they gain like 200% defense, and then you just get one shot by a defense nuker? I mean, I could be completely wrong because the chance is so slim that you're going to gain that much, but I could foresee it happening to somebody at some point. Epics, so 96 accuracy, we love to see it. 6 speed for an epic piece, very strong. Wearer's turn meter increases by 10% whenever an ally receives any of these debuffs. CC debuffs, stun, sleep, fear, true fear, freeze, provoke, and occurs once per turn. That's not bad at all. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be swapping out my Fabian into this one. Yep, this one's going to have to be it right here. Gains turn meters. You know what that's good with. If you know, you know. Saint Xavier's Tribute. Wearer has a 15% chance of placing a veil on themselves for 1 turn. This is actually great for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for quite a few of them. The chance increases by 5% for each 15% HP loss. Okay, not bad. Legendaries. Let's see. Wearer has a 30% chance to activate a delay effect when receiving fatal damage. Activate a delay effect. So basically, they're just not going to die. This is good. This is a strong amulet. You have someone like a Georgid or just a nuker in general. You want them to stay alive, so you just get a chance to get a turn. So maybe you can wipe out their entire team with an AoE if possible. It's just a last ditch effort, right, to win. Mask of Disquiet. Wearer has a 30% chance of activating an instant turn effect on themselves after returning from a sheep. Oh my god, that's disgusting. 96 res and 6 speed and defense. It just sucks that it's not accuracy, but wow, that's strong though. Damn, there's so many champions I'm thinking of that you could put this on. Obviously, you're going to put on a lot of different support type champions, because if they get sheeped, they get out of their sheep and they get a turn to revive everybody or to refresh the skill cooldowns on everybody, and then your team gets a turn anyway somehow. Pretty nice, pretty nice. All right, the Last Laugh Amulet. Delay effect. So that's a new buff in the game, it seems. Introduce a new delay effect. The delay effect will prevent a champion from receiving fatal damage, instead delaying it to their next turn. Oh, so they'll still die. A champion on a delay effect can still be killed by enemies on their turns as well. If a champion on a delay effect receives healing equal to the amount of delayed damage, they will not receive any damage on their next turn. Oh, I see. Okay, so if you can heal your ally before their next turn, they won't just die from that, potential death that they had from their previous turn because they delayed the effect of dying. If they receive some healing, but not enough to equal the value of the delayed damage, they will receive the amount of delayed damage remaining, which means they could potentially still die, or maybe they'll be left really low on health. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword on this amulet right here for the Last Laugh. So if you have a lot of good healing on your team, then it's very strong. But if you don't have good healing, then your champion probably dies on their next turn anyways. If a champion does not receive any healing before their next turn, they will receive all the fatal damage when their next turn starts. So it's like, hey, you didn't die. Hey, can you heal yourself before you die again? And then if you don't heal yourself enough, you just die anyways. So that kind of reduces how strong this specific relic is, or amulet here. So I don't think it's as strong as it was. I was reading that you maybe get a turn before you die, but it seems like you just die. So who knows? We'll see how it works in game though. Mythical relics. We've got Stars of Janang. Resistance, HP, and accuracy. Whenever an enemy's turn meter is increased, the wearer's Wearer increases their own turn meter by 10% of the enemy's turn meter increase. Not bad. Not bad. I mean, if they fill their turn meter by 100%, it's only a 10% increase. So it's not crazy, but it's still decent. Still decent. And then the Zibia Servitude. Enemies cannot land critical hits on the wearer if the wearer's HP is below 15%. That one is strong. Defense, HP, and speed. This one's pretty strong. I like this one. And then it boosts the HP requirements here if you level it up. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So if they're at 40% HP with this maxed out. So if this is max level at 18, then enemies cannot land critical hits on the wearer if the wearer's HP is at below 40%. So that's pretty strong relic in my opinion. That would be, and there's no cooldown, so this is probably the strongest relic out of this bunch, this group, in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, because you could have support champions that just won't freaking die because they keep getting weak hit against over and over and over and over and over. So this relic could end up being broken. Actually, I don't know if I like it. So that means you have to place the seal buffs, the debuffs, and the nullify debuffs. Yeah, so that means that you've got champions like April, who's probably the most god tier champion to utilize, as well as Carnage, who places seal as well as block passives, block actives. Carnage and April are insane. Now we've got, looking at avatars, frame badges. There will be 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle themed avatar frames, the Turtle avatar frame and the Shredder avatar frame. So this is the Turtle, this is the Shredder behind me. Let me move myself out of the way here. So yeah, so this is the Turtle one right here, and this is the Shredder. And then they've got the Pizza Time. Players who collect all 6 champions will receive a special badge, which is the Pizza Time badge. Okay, that's everything. Man, that was a long one. That was almost an hour. I mean, probably like, I'm going to obviously edit this video. It'll be closer to like 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, but damn, a lot of information coming into the game. A lot of new champions, a lot of new relics, new event dungeon, so much going on. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. I know this is a lot to take in, and thank you so much if you stuck around this long. I really appreciate that. Please consider subscribing, or at the very least, leave a like on the video. Leave a comment down below what your thoughts are on the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collaboration that they're doing, and I will see you on a video soon. You take care.